Hey, hello poultry farmers, welcome to my channel, welcome to another video. And if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. It will be helpful for you in your journey in poultry farming business, because here we teach about poultry business, poultry management, and poultry business management. So thank you if you've subscribed to the channel, and if you are already a subscriber, you already know what we do here. So today we want to talk about the beddings in our poultry room. So it concerns me when it comes to choosing the beddings you are using for their chicks. Okay, I would understand for those who are new to the business and they don't have the information on how to deal with the beddings. So number one, there's people who use sawdust on their old chicks. Then there's others who use newspapers. Then there's others who use card boxes. So let me explain here. I'll start with the sawdust or maybe the shavings. When you're using shavings on day old chicks, it's quite risky. Why do I say that? It's because, when we get the day old chicks, you find like they have never tasted food, so they don't know which one is the taste of food. Which means if you're using sawdust, the birds will start eating that sawdust thinking it's food, which will be a problem to you eventually. So I would advise somebody not to use sawdust on their old chicks or even shavings. And the reason why I'm saying don't even use shavings on their old chicks is because the 3 days of the life of these chickens, the day old chicks, when you pick them up, we need to throw feed on the floor. So when you are using sawdust or maybe shavings, you can't throw the feed down. But if you are using newspapers or card boxes, you are able to throw down. And the reason why we do that for 3 days for the life of our beds to put feed down is because we want the beds, wherever they are seated, they are able to eat. Even if when they are seated, they are able to eat. We do that for 3 days. They are able to eat because we are trying to develop the beds very fast. So you need to put your card boxes or newspapers. That is way too good for you. So the newspapers are okay. As you can see on this video, you are able to put down feed so that birds will be able to eat anywhere. And the birds enjoy to eat from down. If you've never tried that before, try to do that. With newspapers and card boxes, you can do that. With sawdust or maybe shavings, you can't do that because it will be mixed with the sawdust or the shavings. So birds enjoy eating from down, especially when they are very small. If you've never tried that before, try to do so. Then you'll see how comfortable and how well, and the sound the birds will be giving the moment they'll be eating there. So when you're using newspapers, the disadvantage is sometimes the newspapers, when the droppings are wet, they've got too much weight. When the birds are trying to scratch, or maybe when they are moving, they have got nails, so they will start, those will start tearing. The newspapers will start getting teared. But if you are using boxes, of course boxes are hard, and the boxes, when you use them, they even absorb that weight of the droppings, which is another advantage for you. So I would advise for you to get card boxes if it's easy for you. But if it's not easy for you, you can get newspapers. But I wouldn't advise you to get shavings or sawdust. So now, when the birds start growing, that's when we now introduce shavings or sawdust. And the main thing is, like, you don't have to introduce sawdust. You need to introduce at least shavings, if not very big, at least a good size of the shavings. Because if you are using fine sawdust, when the birds start scratching on those sawdust, of course it will start going up like dust. It will make the dusty of sawdust, which means your birds will start now breathing that same sawdust, which will start causing your birds to have CRD, chronic respiratory diseases, which won't be good for you. And when the birds are not healthy, every poultry farmer don't feel good about that. So you need to make sure your birds are in a safe environment. So get shavings, if not big, at least small. that is, you introduce that when your beds are at least a bit elder. Maybe they are 12 days. Even when they are 7 days, you can introduce shavings or sawdust. Or even 5 days. At least they are equivalent of 3 to 4 days to 5 days. They are now aware, what am I supposed to eat? They are aware of the taste of the food. They are able to differentiate the taste, like, oh, this is food and this doesn't taste like food that way. Sometimes, you know, the birds will try to eat at some point, then they'll let go because they've now realized, like, this is not the taste of the food that I eat. So to avoid these palatary problems to your chicks, consider getting sawdust, which is a little bit, they are harder. Then sometimes there's always difficulties when finding maybe sawdust. It's better you put even boxes or card boxes before you find that. Then there's some who will use sand. Sand is also good for your beddings, which you will need to disinfect at some point because you don't know where it's coming from. You disinfect it to make sure it is safe for your chickens. Then there's some who use grass. Also grass you need to disinfect because you don't know where it's coming from. Then there's some who use leaves, dry leaves. Also you need to disinfect those so that you make sure everything is safe. And they need to be dry. Then always keep your litter system dry. Don't leave your litter system to get wet, because when it gets wet, a lot of bacteria are always there in the litter system, and sometimes even maggots starts to produce. And when that happens, it's easy for our birds to catch up diseases. And at some point, you find, like, if the litter system is wet, it starts producing ammonia. And in the poultry room, if ammonia is being produced, the thing that usually happens is that ammonia will take over the whole room. And especially if your ventilation system is not good, it will take over the whole room, and then it will take away the oxygen which is in the room. That oxygen won't be enough for the birds to breathe. So when you get into the poultry, try to breathe. If you can't breathe, there's the funny smell, and the smell which is not comfortable for you. Even the birds, it's not good for them. So when ammonia overtakes the room, oxygen is suppressed. It's no longer available. And when oxygen is not available, that means the heart of your chicken will start pumping very fast. That means the heart of the chicken will pump very fast, and that will eventually lead to the heart will start hard working. And when it starts working very hard, it goes to the, you know, there's the veins, the arteries. What will happen is there will be right ventricular failure, and that will lead to the burst of some of the veins and the ventricles. There's an organ that I've just forgotten the name. When it bursts, that's when now, because there's not enough oxygen, then the heart is pumping very fast, it's working hard, trying to produce oxygen that will support the birds breathing. And you know, even the lungs, they have difficulties because there's no oxygen. They are breathing ammonia, which is not good. So about the litter system, you need to be careful. Make sure it's always dry, and make sure in the room the smell is good. And then it comes to the point whereby when you're brooding your birds, there's some time. So the reason why I was explaining that is because when ammonia is there and then oxygen is insufficient in the room, your bird starts having what we call water bed. So it connects also to this explanation I want to give. When it's time for brooding, that's why we always emphasize, like, when your birds, because I'm talking about the hair in the room, that's why I'm explaining this. So when you are brooding your birds, we always advise, like, the brazier, if you're using charcoal, you make sure it's all right up. It's red, so that there's no carbon monoxide in that charcoal brooder you are using. Because if there's carbon monoxide, when you put it in the room, it will take over the oxygen which is there, and it won't be available, especially if you don't have enough ventilation, which is good. It will take over the oxygen, then there will be carbon monoxide in the room, which means when your birds start breathing carbon monoxide, even the heart again starts pumping very fast. Imagine with the lungs. They are the ones who keep the air. Imagine the lungs now. They'll start breathing now carbon monoxide. Like I mentioned, they'll damage there will be right ventricular failure, which will lead to the burst of some other organs in the body that will start now producing you to have water bellies in your chickens, which is not good. So make sure your litter system and your ventilation is okay. You manage them very well. So on this video, I was talking about litter system, and I hope everybody understood all the explanation that I've given on litter system, especially when it comes to buying fine sawdust. When they start scratching, of course, it will go in the air and it will be in the oxygen which the birds are breathing. They'll start getting that. Then they'll have respiratory problems, like I've mentioned. So guys, I'm sure you've understood what I've mentioned, and this concerns about litter system. So thank you for watching the video, and make sure you like the video when you finish watching it and you find it so important to your poultry business and your poultry management. Please, if you're new, consider subscribing to my channel. It will be helpful for you to learn poultry farming easily at your own comfort time. And it will be helpful for me to know, like, I'm addressing people who are in poultry farming and they're able to learn about poultry farming, and they won't have any stress when they start doing their poultry farming business. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you subscribe. Bye bye.